Hello everyone and welcome to Ground Level's Wednesday Wisdom. We're delighted today to be doing our Zoom masterclass. So the idea of this is to give you some basic hints, tips and tricks to how to run a really good Zoom call. I think everyone in this season has got to know Zoom calls quite well, but we're aware that some people might benefit from a little bit of kind of help and advice and a few things that we've learned along the way. So we're going to aim to unpack some of that for you today. And first of all, we're going to come to Steph, who's going to go through some of the basics of how to prepare and run a Zoom call. Over to you, Steph.
Great, thanks, Jason. So first of all, I'm just going to quickly show you how to set up and schedule a meeting. So what you need to go to is your main Zoom app, and if you go to schedule here, what you'll be able to do is you can put your own topic in. So mine just says Steph Sargent Zoom meeting. You can then set up your time and also the date. If you are having a meeting that's monthly, so like our Ground Level Leaders Day, rather than having a different meeting ID for each meeting, you can press recurring and it'll be the same meeting code every time, which just makes it easier for those that are logging on if it's just a monthly meeting. Then what you can do is we always suggest that you use the generate automatically meeting ID. This just means that you're not giving out your personal meeting ID to so many people. And then underneath it, you have the option to, you can have a passcode or you can have a waiting room. Best practice, use both. But if you don't want to use passcode, then just use the waiting room. And this just gives you a bit of added security, which I'll talk about later. Now the passcode, you can put your own in. It doesn't need to be what is written. You can change it to whatever you like. When it comes to the video, we would always suggest that you have all your videos on, just so then you know who's actually behind the camera. And then that also helps you to know if people are genuine who have joined your call. So what we do now is you can then add it to a calendar. Now you might have a church calendar, or you might just want to put it in your personal calendar. You get the option to add this to that as well. Underneath there, you've also got advanced options. So here, what you've got is you can mute participants on entry. You can set it so it automatically records your meeting. So if you've got a meeting that you want people to be able to access afterwards, I would always suggest you automatically record, and you don't forget to record on the day. Okay, so that is how to schedule a meeting. So once you've done that and your meeting is ahead, you then have the option here. You can see your participants and your chat, which you can see here. The more participants you've got, the longer this list will get, and then you will get the option to search once it gets longer than the page you can see. Now on the chat, you can choose to chat to everybody, as it says everyone, or if you want to chat to someone personally, you can either click on them and click on more and press chat, or alternatively you can find them in the list here. So if I want to chat to Jason personally, I can send him a personal information chat that just says, hi, welcome to the meeting. And that sends him a personal message that only he'll be able to see on his chat screen. And that is everything.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steph, for that introduction. Now we're just going to talk about some practical basic steps. Firstly, your internet connection. Now it is always better, if possible, that you could be hardwired into your router or be positioned quite near your router. Do remember that walls, ceilings, floors all interrupt with that signal and reduce the internet connection. And obviously in this season as well, we've got more people at home, more people using the internet. So just be mindful that you may need, if it's an important call, you may need to ask a few people to stop streaming Netflix and the like. Now, another practical thing to discuss is lighting. Ideally, you would use some sort of light. It doesn't necessarily have to be particularly expensive. I am stood in front of a lamp here. If I turn it off, you can see the difference that has immediately made to my to how well you can see me. But of course, natural light is ideal, and windows represent a perfect opportunity to use that. But it is important how you position yourself. Now we're going to just look at Jason now. So Jason has moved from a good position to, frankly, a terrible position, and we're looking like we're something off Crime Watch here. So if you have got a bright light behind you, a webcam will never compete with that, and you will basically just be completely filled in. Your face will be filled in. Nobody can see you. Now, if Jason, you move through 90 degrees, this is a very standard way of lighting yourself. With the light coming across one side of his face, that works well. That's comfortable for both Jason and the viewer. Now, if again you go through another 90 degrees, Jason, depending on where your window is, this is the best lighting for the viewer, but can be straining your eyes if it is a particularly bright window. So you just need to be mindful of natural light, and particularly in these winter months, something to remember is that the light may change significantly during a call, or obviously is completely different at evening time. So an evening Zoom call, the lighting's obviously different. Be mindful about sitting under lights in the house. You see people often start a call in good light. It gets dark. They put the lamp on in the room, and it's above them, and it looks like maybe the album cover for Bohemian Rhapsody. Or you turn a bright occasional lamp on in a room, and a similar effect happens to how we saw originally with Jason. So just be mindful of lighting. It is particularly important. I'm going to hand back to Jason now.
Great, thanks so much, Paul. That was really good. So I'm now going to walk you through some of the not so basics of running your Zoom meetings, and we're going to talk about managing your participants. So you'll see here on my Zoom window that one of the options at the bottom here is participants. Now, if we open that out, it comes up over here, and you can see currently there's just the three of us in this Zoom call. Now, one of the things you'll notice when you're hosting a Zoom meeting, potentially with lots of people, is that the camera can kind of dart about all over the place based on who's talking. Now, if you're wanting to do a presentation, or if someone's speaking, you might want the camera to just stay on that person for the majority of their talk. To do that, we use something called a spotlight. And that means that that person's camera becomes center screen for everybody that is watching the Zoom meeting. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. It's very simple. And in the participants menu, we just go over the person that we want to spotlight. So here I'm going to spotlight Paul. We click on more. You'll see there's a whole range of options in there. I can chat directly with Paul. I can stop his video. I can spotlight him, which is what we're going to do. I can make him host, withdraw his co-host permissions, rename him and report him. So let's spotlight Paul now. And as you can see, the view switches to Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Now, when you're switching from one person to another, you can replace the spotlight by clicking on another person. So if we now go to Steph, you'll see here now there's the option to replace the spotlight, which is really handy if you're going from one feature to another. The other thing you can do in the newly updated Zoom is add two spotlights alongside each other, which is great for interviews or sections where you're kind of all delivering different elements. To do that, you'd click Add Spotlight. So again, it's the same thing. We can press more here, or you can also do it by hovering over someone's video and clicking the three dots. Click Add Spotlight. Now you'll see we've got Paul and Steph alongside each other.
Hello, Steph. Are you enjoying Jason's presentation?
It's lovely.
Very good. Thank you for the encouragement. When you're finished, you can remove the spotlights like this. You also see there's an option here to remove the spotlight too, and that takes us back to the roaming speaker view, which is a really useful tool to bear in mind when you're managing your meetings. So one of the things that you will notice when you get quite a lot of people on a Zoom call, say 20 participants or more, is there's actually quite a lot to do. You'll find that you've got lots of people trying to join the meeting, lots of people to chat with. If you're trying to spotlight at the same time, there's a lot to do, and there's a lot to kind of keep your eye on. So we find that actually having different people with different roles managing your Zoom call is a really effective way to manage everything that needs doing. Now, the way we split that up is we generally have 3 people. That's usually us 3. And usually we have one person whose job it is to look after the waiting room. Now, we'll come on to the waiting room later, but that person will be kind of looking at who's coming into the meeting, admitting people, messaging people that we're not quite sure about, that come in with a strange name or something. They'd also be managing our participants, so muting people who might need to be muted, that have got a noisy washing machine in the background, or screaming children, which is quite often the case in my house. Muting those people where they might be causing some interference in the rest of the meeting. And also looking after our chat, so moderating what's been posted in there and answering people's questions. And that's generally one of the roles. The second role is what we've just been through, is spotlighting. So working their way through the program, spotlighting the right people at the right moment, finding people in participants. One of the really useful things in participants when you get up to a certain number of people is you get the option to search. And usually it appears just at the top of the window here, and you're able to search in there and find people quickly, which is so much quicker than going through lots of different screens trying to look for somebody's face. That can take you a very long time. And then the third role is around media and screen sharing. So if you're sharing video clips or audio, we're going to come on to how to do all of those in a minute. But we usually have that as a separate role as well. Generally, that person will have lots of different things open on their computer, making it quite difficult for them to do some of the other roles. So we give that to that person to do. And that way we find that you can best kind of have people's best, be able to put your concentration on the right element and deliver your Zoom call really, really well. And speaking of screen sharing, we're now going to go over to Paul, who's going to walk us through some of the different ways to do that and the advantages and disadvantages of each one.
Thank you, Jason. We're now going to look at the screen sharing options, but with a particular focus to make sure that you get the best quality audio you can on your Zoom call. It is very important that the audio is at its best, because people can tolerate poor visuals, but scratchy, unpleasant audio is a surefire way to get people to leave your Zoom call. Now, we at Ground Level are often sharing videos, whether they be music videos or preachers that have been supplied by our various speakers on events. So Jason now is going to screen share a video, but with none of the enhanced features. So we're going to listen to this video and watch this video. Go for it, Jason. So the audio quality was not great on that playing. So Jason's going to play the video again, and you'll see there are 2 tick boxes. There is one that is share computer sound, and another one that is optimize screen for video. Now, the optimizing sound is just taking a feed directly from the computer. The first time round, what was actually happening, it was coming out of Jason's speakers and then being picked up by its microphone, and hence it sounded really poor. So this is a much more improved way of sharing screen videos, and also has the ability, Jason would have the ability to mute himself while playing this video and it would still work. So Jason, share that again for us, please.
It couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures that fade, never enough.
So that is getting the wonderful Ollie back to his best. So they are two very important settings to take into account when you are sharing video. In a similar vein, there are occasions when you want some background music, maybe at the start of a meeting, and you don't want to share a video. So again, there is a setting to click on that we can see on the screen here. You go into screen share, and then you go to advanced. And within advanced, there is the ability to share audio from your computer. So Jason's going to do the example again.
You came along.
Thank you. And again, the sound quality there is great. Without that sharing computer audio, it's back to sounding terrible. So again, let's have a quick listen to Ollie sounding terrible. Sounds as though Jason's put his laptop in the bath. So that's a very important setting that you must use. One final audio setting to talk about, and unfortunately we're not going to be able to demonstrate this because this is a setting only appropriate when you've got some live singing or instruments playing, and frankly the three of us are terrible at singing, so we're not going to demonstrate it for you. But there is a setting called original sound. Now, it is important that original sound is turned on when you have got somebody singing or playing a guitar. This is Zoom is trying to take out unnecessary background noise, and it basically turns that editing off to have original sound on. There's also another mode that's more recently added to Zoom, which is a high fidelity music mode, but it is worth having a little experiment and play around with those. I'm now going to hand you on to Steph.
So I'm quickly going to go through some of the security that we put in place when we're on a Zoom call. So earlier you'd have heard me mention about a passcode and a waiting room. Now these are just extra precautions to put in place because recently we've noticed, especially with prayer meetings, that we're getting hijackers. Now, I'm not quite sure why it's prayer meetings, but if you have a password in place, then obviously they won't know the password. So they won't be able to get on. But also a waiting room is a great tool for this because you can actually see who's coming into the call without actually accepting them. So I'll give you a little example. So what's going to happen is an iPhone 12 is going to join the call, and hopefully it will come up soon. Here it is. Now, so obviously, if something like this comes up, it could be someone genuine, but obviously it might not be. Or you might have a computer-generated one come up, which is just a mixture of numbers and letters. Now, we would always say don't admit them, but instead you can send them a message in the waiting room. Now, the way you can do this is down on the chat option down here. You can find everyone in the waiting room and send them a little chat, a little message just to say, please can you leave the chat, leave this Zoom call, and if you use our meeting ID, then you can change your name and re-enter. Now the thing we have with this is if people use a link that you send, then it just automatically puts them in the waiting room without giving them the option to change their name. So it'll be whatever was on it before or whatever it's generated. If you give them the meeting ID, then they get the option to change their name before they join the call. So it's always good to send them a meeting ID, just so then they can do that first. without having to think about a name that they're coming upon. So I'm just going to leave, and then I'm going to rejoin. Now, if I was to remove that person, then what would happen is they actually wouldn't have the option to rejoin. So you'll notice in a minute, I'm going to come back up. It's just connecting. Okay, so here it is again. So I've come back on as Steph Sargent. So obviously we know that is someone genuine. So what you can do is you can admit them. Now, like I mentioned a minute ago, if I was to press remove, I would then not be able to join at all. But I can admit them because they are genuine. If you, by accident, admit someone that isn't a genuine person, or you're not quite sure, best thing to do is you can mute everybody. Obviously, that if you mute everybody, that will mute your speaker or whoever's meant to be speaking at that time. But hopefully anybody who's on your programme to speak, they will already know to be ready to do this and to unmute themselves straight away. Now, what you can do is, if you hover over that person, you've got the option to put them back in the waiting room, to remove them or report them. Quickest thing, just put them back in the waiting room while you decipher whether it actually is someone who's meant to be on the call or whether it is someone that's just trying to hijack. Like I said, if you remove them, they can't come back on. So if it was little old Gladys who didn't quite know what she was doing with her audio, then she won't be able to join again. So putting back in the waiting room is just the best thing to do to begin with. And that is the best practice for keeping your Zoom call security and best for everybody. Okay, so now we're going to head over to Jason.
Great, thanks so much, Steph. That was really helpful. We're now going to talk about breakout rooms. So we use breakout rooms a lot at ground level for various different events, whether it's for prayer sessions, whether it's for seminars, or whether it's for just a chat in a smaller group. We find breakout rooms are a really good way to break down a smaller gathering into a more manageable size where people can actually sort of talk to each other. Now, I'm going to show you the controls for breakout rooms now and how we do those. So you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom controls, you've got the breakout rooms button. If you click that, you'll see this box open up here. And you'll see there's the option to create a certain number of breakout rooms. And you'll see as we toggle those up and down, it's automatically changing this bit at the bottom here of how many participants are going to be in each room. Now this is the option to assign automatically. You can also assign manually, and that'll allow you to select where each different person goes. And there's also the option to let participants choose a room. Now that is new functionality to Zoom, and it's not something that we've really tried much yet, as it's a little bit clunky, and it's also requires people to have the most up-to-date version of Zoom. So we've not really wanted to risk that one yet. So first of all, I'm going to show you what happens if we assign automatically with 2 breakout rooms. So I'm just going to create those. And you can see it's just created room 1 and room 2, and it's put, we've got 2 Stephs, so you have to try and think which one's her iPad and which one's her, but it's got Steph's iPad with Paul in one room and then Steph in another. It won't automatically put the host, which in this case is me, into a breakout room, but you can join one once they are open. So you'll see here I've got the option to rename the room, so I can call that whatever I like, so prayer about the world. There we go. And this one we're going to rename prayer about the nation. There we go. And you'll see we've also got the options here to move and exchange. So we might want to exchange Steph's iPad with Steph's actual video and put Paul and Steph in a room together. And we might want to move, say, Paul to the room with Steph in it. It does get a bit confusing when there's only 3 of us, but when you've got an actual list of long participants, it does make sense. Now, a really important feature is actually this little cog down here. If you click that, you'll see a range of options, which is quite important to have a look at before you start your breakout rooms. So obviously there's allow participants to choose a room. We've got that turned off at the moment. Allow participants to return to the main session at any time. That'll mean that they can leave their breakout room whenever they like. Automatically moved all assigned participants into breakout rooms. So if you tick that one, everyone will automatically kind of whiz off into their breakout rooms. If you untick it, they'll have to click to join the room. Then this, you can automatically close the room after a specified number of minutes. We're going to stick with 1 for this session. Notify me with the time is up. That means you'll get a nice little button that says time's up. Do you want to close your breakout rooms? And then countdown after closing the breakout rooms. This will just allow a period of time for people to finish their conversations before it takes you back into the main session. You'll also see we've got the option to recreate here. If we do that, it will just start from scratch and reassign everybody. And if we add a room, that just creates another room. So if I click open all rooms, that'll take people off into their breakout rooms. Here we go. And we should see them disappear any moment. There we go. So it's just me left on the main call now, and you'll see that I've got the option to broadcast a message to all, which I can do here. Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying the breakout. And they'll see that pop up on their screen. And you'll also see we can still move people, and we can also join. So I could join prayer about the world. So if I click that one, and now I'm in the breakout room with Steph, and we're here to pray about the world. Now, once you're in the breakout room, you'll see as the host, I can still go back into breakout rooms and see where we're up to. And notice we've only got 3 seconds left, so we better hurry up, Steph. Quick prayer. And now you'll see it's going to close the breakout rooms and give us 10 seconds to finish our conversation and go back. And here we are back in the main session. You'll see your participants popping back in now. So the other thing just to note on this as well, if we kind of go back and start again, so if I click the recreate button, you have got the option to assign manually as well. So if we recreate with assign manually, you'll see what you get here when you click assign is a list of names. Now, obviously, the thing to bear in mind with this, if you've got a lot of participants, is it's going to take you a long time to do this. So we generally would say don't plan your breakout rooms for too early in your session, because you're going to need time to get people in the right room or arrange people into where you want them to go. If you're doing it automatically, it's not too bad. But do also bear in mind that at the start, you might have people joining late, and they'll all come into the main call and still need to be assigned. So we'd still encourage you to give yourself a little bit of time before you go into the breakout rooms. The other thing to note is that you can actually pre-set your breakout rooms before you start your meeting. There's some great information on Zoom's help on how to do that. You can upload a CSV file of all different people's email addresses with which room they should be going into. There are a few flaws with it, so if those people aren't signed into Zoom when they log into the call, it won't pick that up. And then you'll find yourself with a long list of unassigned people and be checking back to figure out where they all need to go. So it's worth playing around with functionality like that if you are planning on using it beforehand.
Thank you for that, Jason. It is a great feature, is the breakout rooms, and if they are managed well, it can be a powerful addition to a meeting. Now, we're going to just touch on recording. I'm sure you'll all be aware that Zoom has the ability to record a Zoom call. You can record that file to the local computer, or you can save it into the cloud. Two simple tick box options. Now, if you predetermine that the call is to be recorded when you set up your call, it will be the very first person that joined that call that their view of the whole meeting will be the view that is recorded. So if you didn't have a waiting room, some member of your meeting could join 10 minutes early, and it will be their version, their screen that would get recorded. So with the waiting room, it will be a host that starts the meeting, so it'll be their view. And if you do click the record button yourself and you flick through the various pages on a longer Zoom call, it will be that view that gets seen. So if you go to gallery view, the recording will show gallery. If you're on speaker view, it will show speaker view. So just be mindful that if you are the person that is recording the meeting, that you don't want to just leave it on a random gallery view, but you do want to come back to the speaker view to make sure that the recording works well.
Well, thank you for that, Paul. That was great. We've now come to the end of our session here. So hopefully you can now run a sufficient Zoom call for all the meetings that you might be doing across your church. And we hope that you've managed to take some top tips, whether it be breakout rooms or screen sharing. We hope that you have learned something new today. Well, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop us a line at admin@groundlevel.org.uk, and we'll try and answer as many of your questions that you might have. Thank you very much and have a great day.